Pericles goes on to discuss the Athenian way of life with respect to the city's disposition towards the military. He doesn't mention the Spartans explicitly, but the contrast to them is constantly in the back of his mind and that of his audience. Due to a number of different historical factors, the Spartans had created a highly militaristic society. The educational system was organized in such a way that boys were trained to be soldiers from a very early age. There were very restrictive measures about what could and could not be done, which were all justified by the argument of military necessity. Pericles' claim is that Athens has a powerful and effective military without these measures. It does not need to create a militarized state and can enjoy a normal life and develop other higher cultural interests. It doesn't exclude foreigners in the name of military secrecy. His argument is that the natural virtuousness of the Athenians is enough to ensure their military success without making the sacrifices to individual freedoms that one sees in Sparta. Pericles likewise dilates on the customs and values of the citizenry in general. He says, quote, "We cultivate refineness without extravagance, and knowledge without effeminacy. Wealth we employ more for use than for show," end quote. Here we catch a glimpse of the notion of the Aristotelian golden mean, whereby the correct path is the middle one. Some peoples might be richer or more knowledgeable, but when these things are carried out to extremes, they lead to problems. The Athenians have the good sense to keep these things in their proper proportions and thus enjoy their benefits correctly. Thucydides is often read as a critic of democracy since he portrays the fall of Athens as being due to the bickering of the different factions and the inability to act effectively after the death of Pericles. But in the funeral oration, he makes Pericles praise this aspect of Athenian political life. He points out that private individuals are active in political life and those who are not are disdained. This means that everyone is informed and able to engage in the issues of the day. He then says, quote, "Instead of looking on discussion as a stumbling block in the way of action, we think it an indispensable preliminary to any wise action at all." This is a surprising endorsement of democratic debate for one supposedly critical of Athenian democracy. Pericles concludes with a high-sounding claim that Athens as a city is, quote, "the school of Hellas." By this he clearly means that in their customs, habits, and political constitution, Athens serves as a model for the other Greek states to learn from and to try to emulate. Athens has been able to create a great empire due to these things. He thus dubiously takes the military success of the state to be a justification for everything about it. We all know the problems with this kind of specious argument. Terrible dictators can also enjoy military success, but this in no way should be taken as a vindication of their values and methods or the strength of their institutions. A thief can boast about being rich from the proceeds of his theft, but this kind of success does not justify anything at all. When Pericles gets around to praising the fallen Athenian soldiers, he refers to their fulfillment of the warrior ethic. He says tellingly, "To a man of spirit, the degradation of cowardice must be immeasurably more grievous than the unfelt death which strikes him in the midst of his strength and patriotism." The warrior is motivated by honor and recognition, or conversely, the fear of dishonor. So the Athenian soldiers are to be praised and even envied for their attentiveness to their duty. They lived well, and equally important, they died well. We saw in Herodotus how Solon made the claim that due to the unpredictable changes in fortune, before one could pass judgment on a person's life, one must know how they died. Pericles returns to this motif here and praises the Athenian soldiers for having completed their lives with a fortunate death that did them honor. Quote, "Numberless are the chances to which the life of man is subject, but fortunate indeed are they who draw for their lot a death so glorious as that which has caused your mourning, and to terminate in the happiness in which it has been so exactly measured as to terminate in the happiness in which it has been passed." Pericles' funeral oration tells us much about the Athenian self-image. It witnesses a radically different conception of individuality and personhood from the one that we have today. One might be tempted to praise some of the forward-looking elements that appear in it, such as the notions of freedom and equality and democracy, but by the same token, it's difficult to overlook the obvious inconsistencies in the way in which these principles are applied. Positive and negative assessments are both possible, but it seems clear that the idea of a human being as developing from nature found here is one that still has a long way to go before it reaches our modern conception.